So let's talk a little bit about the UK and censorship. Roughly about 30 people or more are arrested daily statistically in the UK for quote unquote offensive speech. So anything that's offensive, that hurts people's feelings, under the law in England can actually get you arrested. And this has been going on for some time, but the rate in which people have been arrested for this has increased year by year. So, and now when you talk about hurting someone's feelings over a post on the internet, to codify that legally and to incarcerate somebody for hurt feelings is the product of nihilism. And I've talked about this quite a bit before. This is the handiwork of Immanuel Kant, where he says that basically just eviscerates reason as a means of identifying reality. So, people get in this mindset where their feelings are so important that their whims, their whim worshiping, which is what nihilism is. It's whim worshiping. Because their feelings are hurt, that they get to arrest somebody for this. This is just absolutely absurd, and it's not at all conducive to a free society. It's so necessary that, and to keep a free society free, is that you need dialogue, you need open debate, you need to be able to allow the good ideas to outcompete the bad ideas. Well, you can't have that if you're arresting people because their feelings get hurt. Now, this, of course, is selectively enforced. There are Christian groups, which I'm not necessarily supporting those, but nonetheless, they don't get these rights. If they're out preaching, in the United States, I would say that's their First Amendment right. They get arrested in the UK. There are certain townships that just outright ban them. They're not allowed to preach in certain areas. And this is on public property. So, this is something that needs to be discussed. Now, if I was in England and I talked about these things, I may get arrested. I've said things that were probably offensive to people. I can almost do this on a daily basis, but I tell the truth. I see things for what they are. And if I'm wrong, you're free to correct me. You're free to engage with me in a debate and say that I'm wrong because of facts X, Y, Z. And I'll listen to that. We'll have a dialogue. But they're shutting the debate down because they know that they can't have a debate, that their ideas are wrong. Why else would they require censorship? Why would they have to have that kind of ideological protection? So yeah, I mean, it's ominous. The UK, it will slide into tyranny at this rate. Something really has to be done. There has to be discussion. You see what's happening in France, in Germany, in Romania, what they're threatening to do in Hungary and in Poland, and you saw what's happening in Canada right now. So this is a worldwide phenomenon. But if somebody were to come up in the UK and say that people should have the right to speak freely, provided they're not violating the rights of other people. In other words, they're not physically threatening somebody, or they're not frauding somebody. They are exercising their freedom because that's what a human being is supposed to do. That's why totalitarian countries don't last forever. That's why they collapse. That's why the Soviet Union collapsed, because you don't have the innovation. You don't have it in Cuba. You don't have it in North Korea. They'll just stagnate while the countries around them continuously develop and innovate. In this case, the United States is on a trajectory to innovate and to blow Canada and Europe out of the water. Russia, as totalitarian as Russia is, they wouldn't stifle people for this reason. Granted, Russia, you don't have the economic freedom, which is sad in Russia. But and in certain respects, you're almost better off there because at least you can work, you can produce. Now, yeah, you have a lot of corruption over there too. But anyway, it's not looking good. You've gotten so bad to the point where you're on par with Russia in terms of authoritarianism, and arguably maybe even worse than they are. So there needs to be an honest discussion. People need to, even if it gets you in trouble, if you're going to be like a Tommy Robinson and say, hey, this is what's going on, speak out, become a symbol, become a Georgescu or Marine Le Pen. Let them persecute you. Be another Donald Trump. This is not going to be easy. Somebody once said that, I see this comment a lot, that you can vote your way into socialism, but you have to fight your way out. And that's where we're at. You have to fight your way out of this.